pan area, this indented area here, pour a small amount of powder into the pan, close the frizzen down, which would act as a cover, cast the weapon about, pour the remainder of the powder down the barrel, insert the cartridge paper tube fully in there, pushing it all the way down in with his finger, using the ramrod. The projectile would have been sub-caliber, probably roughly about 64, 65 caliber, although it was 69 caliber. That was to aid in the speed of loading, so you could actually get that weapon, that projectile and the cartridge down to the base of the bore relatively quickly. Even when the weapon started becoming fouled with the black powder, the weapon would then be ready to fire. You may look in this area here when I snap the lock. You can actually note a small amount of a flash. You may see it in this area here when I squeeze the trigger. I don't know if you saw the little bit of flash there. I saw it from where I was standing. But those sparks, when I pull the trigger, the flint would come down, striking the frizzen, kicking it forward, and at the same time scraping a small bit of metal coming off that would come off as hot glowing embers, would fall down into our priming powder, ignite that. We'd get a little bit of a flash out here outside the weapon in the lock area. There's a vent hole that would communicate, or the external priming charge would communicate into our internal powder charge, ignite that, and send our projectile down range. Then the weapon would all have to be run through all the maneuvers all over again of taking the cartridge, priming again, closing, re-ramming. They say a well-trained man could roughly fire about 2 to 3 rounds a minute.
Holy crap.
And this weapon, though, was only good for about 75 yards, and you probably wouldn't even attempt to shoot it at anything over 100 yards with this weapon. But this weapon wasn't really intended for accurate fire. It was just mass fire quickly is what they really intended this for. Jerry, the volunteer, is going to show his hunting rifle that he brought from home. This weapon took a lot longer to load, but could fire much more accurately at much further range. And Jerry's going to go ahead and demonstrate his weapon there.
I'm a civilian volunteer. Nothing about me, including my weapon, is military. This is a civilian hunting rifle, known as a Kentucky long rifle. This particular rifle was made in the state of Virginia. It ignites in the same way as the musket. However, the barrel is grooved. You can see the barrel is octagon. It's got grooves inside the barrel, spinning the ball. Its range is up to 400 yards. However, the rifle has its drawbacks. It fouls very easily. The powder gets in the grooves, forcing the man to hammer the ball in almost with the mallet, and it could take up to a minute to load this weapon. But you could pick off an enemy officer up to 400 yards with this piece, whereas with the musket you couldn't do that. So we would use the skirmishes. We would pick off the artillerymen and the enemy officers. The civilian long rifle was used mainly as a sharpshooting weapon, as a sniper's rifle. This was the sniper rifle of the day.
Cool. Or if we're taking game,
One thing we found out about Florida, because it was a territory, they didn't have an armory like the other states did. So some of the militia units that came to Florida were armed just like the soldiers were, with a military musket and stand of arms with cartridge box and bayonet. Here in Florida, a lot of men had fowling pieces. These are early shotguns. They might be flintlock like this, or they might have been converted over to percussion. This one's a little bit long-barreled. Some of them would be 36-inch barrels and even a little shorter. But the reason they like these is because of the dense underbrush here in Florida. You could use these to shoot round ball, like the military musket. You could also shoot a buck and ball load, or a buckshot load, or even bird shot. So it was a very versatile weapon. And because of the dense brush down here, they were very good for fighting against the Indians because you weren't shooting very far. This is accurate. This one's accurate out to about 100 yards. Average shot here in Florida is about 75 yards, so it's musket range. So these were very effective.